Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to be doing another SWI on you guys, and this is an interesting one because yet again it's another iPhone. Tomorrow I'm probably going to start doing Android, iPhone, Windows Phone, and so on and so forth. Probably no Windows Phone anytime soon, but today we're going to be looking at a phone that I've covered extensively on this channel ever since I bought it back in 2017 when it first came out, which is the iPhone 8, if you guys already read the title. And I bought it the first day it came out, and then I returned it because I was too poor to keep affording it, and I had to return it within that 2-week policy. Then I ended up buying a couple of them now in order to make videos about it, and I can definitely tell you that without a doubt, the iPhone 8 is still, I think, a super competitive offer for what you're getting in a phone, especially when you look at, you can still go to the Apple Store and buy them brand new. So that is a pretty important thing to note. But since the beginning of this year, since my early 2019 review, even my mid 2019 review, a lot of things have changed. We've seen the official iOS 13 update come out, we've seen the new iPhones come out, and we've seen a price drop for these iPhones in the brand new market for the Apple stores. So it might have only been like a few months span, but a lot of things have changed surprisingly. So, this thing is still worth it, don't get me wrong, but there might be better deals in the market, and there might be even better ways to get an iPhone 8 rather than just getting it brand new, So starting off with the body, that's the one thing I always look for. Like I said, this thing came out in 2017, and I'll be completely honest, I think Apple could have probably changed the design up for this one a little bit. I do understand they added the glass back and everything, but I don't understand why Apple still went with the huge bezel design, even with the 8 Plus, because these phones at retail price, they weren't cheap phones necessarily, and when you look at phones that were released at the same time, such as the Galaxy S8, I think the LG G6, the OnePlus phone, whatever one that came out at the time, those phones, they didn't have that much bezel on them, and for Apple to keep sustaining the same design from like 2009, whenever like the iPhone 11, whenever the first iPhone came out, 2007 I think, it was the same type of layout. When they officially switched it to the iPhone 10, then it was a little bit better, but I still think they could have done better. This is still an outdated design, but it's not that bad. Everyone is so accustomed to the way this phone looks that when you look at it, you're like, oh, it's an iPhone. So even though in 2019 that we have completely almost bezel-less phones, the Samsung Galaxy S10, the Note 10, the OnePlus 7 Pros, people still look at this phone and they just are so used to it. They don't look like, oh, you have a cheap phone. They're just like, oh, you have an iPhone. So on the front, obviously the home button, a 4.7 inch display, 750p by 1334, which has 326 pixels per inch. And it is a Retina IPS panel. So it does have True Tone in it, which is a really nice touch. And I do think it's still a pretty good display, but I don't know. It's not an OLED display. It's not like 1080p or above. So I still think this is pretty much on par with the iPhone 10 or iPhone 11 screen, although I do think those are a little bit better, mostly because of the notch and they look just better overall. So on the back, a single camera sensor, no headphone jack, lightning port, glass on the back as well. And if you're trying to look at this and you're trying to compare it to like an iPhone 7 or iPhone 6s, I can tell you this phone feels so much more premium than those phones, even though they look almost the same on the front. So that's a pretty important thing to note. But in terms of the outside, that is pretty much it. Like I said, super, super basic. It's like nothing that we haven't seen before. So if you want something that's a safe option, right there, you pretty much got it taken care of. Now, in terms of the software, this is where things, again, get kind of interesting, but also not really. We're kind of too early into the software lifecycle to determine whether it's going to go get an extra year of support or not. If I had to tell you, I probably would say so, because I think Apple wants to sustain the last home button design for a while. With the iPhone SE 2 coming out, if it does use the same type of design, I think Apple would end up, kind of matching them a little bit. I don't think they would want the software updates to be too far off from these two. I don't think they would want to develop just a specific software for one home button device. So I don't know. I think that's just what I'm thinking of. But this thing was released with iOS 11. You are able to get iOS 13.1.2 on it. And you know what? I do think it's going to last for a long time. You have at least like 2 or 3 more years of software support out of this thing. So if you're getting it now or you're getting it later, that's totally okay. If you still have one currently, I probably wouldn't even be worried about any sort of software updates related issues, because you're going to be getting this thing, you're going to be using, you're going to get all the updates. So I wouldn't even worry about that. So in terms of the software, it's going to be perfectly set. And I will tell you, since iOS 13 official, even I tested every single beta on it, but since the official version, and I did have issues with the betas and everything every once in a while, but since the official version, I really haven't ran into too many problems. So on my iPhone 7, I ran into a ton of problems. My 6S, I think I ran into one, but for the most part, my iPhone 8 was a very, very good device. It treated me very, very well throughout my beta journey. So maybe that's a testament to, the reliability of an iPhone 8 software update. So that's pretty much that in terms of the software side of things. Now, let's talk about the performance. And I think this is the part where you guys probably want to hear the most of, but it's probably the most boring part right next to the camera, because with these phones, I really don't notice that much of a difference when I'm playing with like an iPhone 8 versus when I'm playing with like an iPhone XR or iPhone 11 Pro or whatever. Like, they all seem kind of the same to me. Now, the iPhone 8 has the Apple A11 Bionic chip, a hexa-core CPU, and 2 gigabytes of RAM. There's only 2 models of the iPhone 8, a 64 gig variant and a 256 gig variant. I feel like they could have done better, but whatever. And when I'm messing with this thing, I can tell you, I don't even notice a humongous difference between these and the newer devices, and I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, because when I'm playing with my iPhone 8, I keep saying playing, but when I'm messing with my iPhone 8, when I'm opening apps, closing them, which is such a basic task, opening Snapchat, using apps like that and whatever I'm doing them with, it seems like a perfectly smooth device. Like, I don't see this thing aging at all anytime soon. And it really is a testament to not only the software updates, but the chipsets Apple puts in this. I mean, the Apple A11 Bionic, that's a pretty strong chipset to have within a phone like this. And the screen isn't like a high resolution. It's not like a crazy PPI or anything. So there's less pixels to push. So it's definitely a really, really good thing and aids in the performance. And I'm not going to sit here and say it's better performing than any new iPhone or any new Android. It's definitely not the best. It could definitely be better. But when I'm not comparing them, when I'm just going about my day, I don't think I would notice any difference in like a slight of performance or glitched frames here and there because of the chipsets and because of this phone. It does not feel like a cheap phone at all in terms of performance. So I wouldn't even really worry about that. In terms of like higher intensive gaming or higher intensive apps, again, it's like more of the same. I don't really notice that big of a difference. I think before I kind of saw the only issue I had was heating of the phone and the back of the phone. Sometimes it would like heat up sometimes, but I really haven't had that issue anytime soon. I think iOS 13 beta like 6 or something, whatever that last beta was, I really haven't ran into too many problems that I can remember in terms of the phone heating up. So that's definitely a good thing. So in terms of performance, I wouldn't even worry about it. It's a really, really good performing phone in my opinion. Still not the best, but it gets the job done and then some. So I would say definitely above average. Now let's go ahead and talk about the cameras on this thing. So this thing does have a single camera on the back. It is a 12 megapixel sensor. It's a wide angle lens. And I'll tell you, man, this is a really, really good sensor in my opinion. You can do 4K at up to 60 frames per second, which is really, really nice. 1080p at up to 240 frames, which is super cool. And when I'm using this thing, when I think I already compared it to the 11 Pro and 11, maybe I didn't, but when I compare this thing to even the iPhone XR or whatever, like I noticed how good of a camera this thing is. And when I'm using it day by day, like you see, like it's just like, the camera quality is so dedicated on the rooms or whatever you're taking, like lighting situation. It all depends on that, because I can get a really, really good photo from like an iPhone 4S, but I can get a really bad photo from an iPhone 11, depending on the location, depending on the lighting. So this thing still does a very, very good job. My only probably gripe with this is that there's no like crazy features. There's no portrait mode. There's no night mode. There's no, crazy things that we have on the newer iPhones. There's no telephoto lens. There's no ultra wide sensor. So, and it's probably a big deal for a lot of people, but for me, it's not a big deal at all. I honestly don't even care. Give me a good quality photo and that's all I care about. And I think the iPhone 8 does a really good job at that in my opinion. So in terms of camera quality, that's pretty much it. A 7 megapixel front facing camera. And that kind of wraps up the whole entire camera quality comparison. Now, let's go ahead and hit on the battery life super quickly. This thing has a 1821 milliamp battery. Now, what's really cool is that the iPhone 8, technically speaking, is the first wireless charging iPhone. The 8 Plus was released like 1 second after this, so this one is kind of the first one. And so the battery, I would say it's not the greatest battery life in my opinion. I don't know what leads to this, because it definitely outlasted like the iPhone 6s and the iPhone 6, but I think it didn't last as long as the iPhone 7 in my opinion. And this battery life, I would say, it gets the job done like I stated. It gets you from point A to point B, but I will tell you, it's going to be really hard for you to go like multiple days or even like a day and a half on an iPhone 8. It's just the battery size isn't too big. And even though the screen isn't high resolution or whatever, it's still a pretty powerful phone at the end of the day. And I don't know, maybe it's just my phone, but my battery health isn't even that bad. So I'm not really too sure what's going on with it. So I've never had the best battery life. Like my iPhone SE, for example, outlasted my iPhone 8. My iPhone 7, I believe, outlasted my iPhone 8 as well. So in my battery testings that I did with iOS 13, so I don't want to blame the software. I know for 100% fact iOS 13 really didn't change battery life all that much. It maybe it decreased a little bit, but not even that much to me even freak out about. So in terms of battery life, I give it like a B. I give it like a C plus probably. It's like good enough to like keep you going, but it's nothing like brag worthy in my opinion. Now to answer the question, is the iPhone 8 still worth it in late 2019? I would say yes, dude. It's still worth it. Obviously, like it's still a very good phone. It's getting software updates. It's still strong enough IP certification, so that's good. Great camera quality, pretty good screen, I guess. But I would probably deter you from getting like a brand new one from the Apple Store, mostly because I think that's a little bit overpriced. I think they're selling for like $449 or something like that. I don't really think it's worth $449, whatever, $499, whatever the price is. You can get one easily for like half the price. You can get like a 256 gig variant probably for like 300, probably less than 400 on eBay. So I would probably recommend you going that route. But also, iPhone 8 Pluses are really good deals. Honestly, you could probably get an iPhone 10 for like $400, $500 on eBay. So you can get one of those for the same price as a brand new iPhone 8. So I would probably, like I said, I would probably recommend you going that route than going to get an iPhone 8 because yes, the 8 is still getting updates. It's still going to be a great phone. If you kind of want to get up in trends and you want to get a phone that's going to last you even longer, an iPhone 10 might be the best way to go. So that's pretty much it. I'll leave links to the cheapest iPhone 8s, iPhone 10s that I find on Amazon, and I'll link them straight down in the description below so you guys can help support the channel at the same time. But that's pretty much it. If you guys have any other questions or anything, leave it down in the comment section below. Hit that like button, that'll mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. Every single subscriber that we get really does count, so it'll mean so much if you guys can hit that. Also check out the other links down in the description as well. My Twitter, my Instagram, my second channel, all those links are linked down below. I'd really appreciate if you guys could check it out, but more importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.